Hello everyone, Joseph Dunphy here. It's Thursday the 1st of August and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the Dairy Edge. PastureBase data for the week. The average farm cover is up to 725 kilos dry matter per hectare. The cover per livestock unit is up to 225 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit. Growth is at 59 kilos of dry matter per hectare and demand is at 51 kilos of dry matter per hectare currently on dairy farms. Pre-grazing yield is around 1,500 kilos of dry matter per hectare, and supplementation is still in around 4 kilos on farms at the minute, so 15 kilos of grass and 4 kilos of concentrate. Dry matter percentages for the week: 16% was recorded in Athenry, County Galway, 16% in Oak Park, County Carlow, 18.5% in Moorepark, County Cork, and 18% in Grange, County Meath. The predicted grass growth, rainfall and soil temperatures for the coming 7 days. Predicted growth rates are expected to be good for the next 7 days, with between 65 and 70 kilos of dry matter growth expected for the vast majority of the country. Certain parts, however, of the southeast that are still in soil moisture deficits may be a little bit lower at between 50 and 55 kilos of dry matter per hectare growth rates. Soil temperatures are expected to be in the region of 15 to 16 degrees for the coming 7 days. Predicted rainfall amounts are low for the vast majority of the country, within around 10 millimetres of rain expected for the east and the south. However, the western seaboard and the northwest is expected to receive in the region of between 25 or 30 mil of rain for the next 7 days. So on this week's podcast, we're delighted to have Áine Murray, researcher from Teagasc Moorepark, County Cork, on with us. Áine, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much for having me, Joe.
So Áine, it's been a difficult year so far in terms of grass growth. All through the spring was wet. Then we came into quite a I suppose a dry and harsh period there throughout June and early July. And I suppose you're going to maybe have a quick chat with us on the podcast today a little bit on mineralisation and some of the trial work that's going on in Moorepark at the minute, and I suppose that's going on farms as well.
Yeah, so we are measuring mineralisation on a number of the Teagasc farms, and basically to explain what mineralisation is, it's the nitrogen source we are getting from the organic matter content within the soil. So without spreading any chemical or organic nitrogen on the soil is able to mineralise its own nitrogen source. And we've been measuring this for a number of years on different sites, and just maybe to explain what's been happening, we've looked at the results for this year versus last year within Moorepark. And in terms of how much is being mineralised and how much grass only can yield off mineralisation for 2023, for the first 5 rotations, last year was 5.1 tonnes. And this year we're looking at being back about a tonne in terms of mineralisation source. So this year the plots have only yielded 4.2 tonnes. So we are back a tonne in terms of mineralisation year to date compared to last year, which is a big year effect, and it is basically based on what we've seen this year. And we've seen that like solar radiation is something that can have a big effect on mineralisation, and solar radiation is also back this year compared to last year.
Okay, yeah. So that's, I suppose, in general, Áine, that's we've kind of seen that from the PastureBase average figures there to the 1st of July. That they're roughly a ton behind. So what you're saying there from a mineralization point of view, that I suppose to summarize, 5.1 back to in 2023, back to 4.2 ton this year. Is explaining nearly the ton difference there at the minute. Okay, and I suppose just to follow that on, Áine, there's some questions there in the media in terms of maybe some of the performance of fertilizers. I suppose in the context of the colder, harsher year, there's been some questions in the media re performance of certain fertilizers. What is the research telling us at the minute?
Yeah, so it is measured on a number of sites as well. And I know in Johnstown and Moorepark, they've seen that, the different fertilizer types are all performing the same. There's no any fertilizer that is back on any of the rest of them. It does just seem to be a year effect. And what's one thing that is standing out is that ton in terms of mineralization seems to be the big effect on yields year to date.
And we see with the long-term grassland nitrogen fertilizer type experiment that's currently going on in Johnstown Castle. There was 160 kilos of nitrogen applied to the 25th of June on that trial, and both CAN, urea and protected urea have all grown the same to that date at the end of June of 6 tonne of dry matter per hectare. So Áine, thanks very much for your time coming on the podcast today.
Thanks a million, Joe.
Your Grass10 tips for the week. It's an improving situation on Irish dairy farms with higher temperatures increasing grass supply. This week's grass growth rates are 59 kilos of dry matter, and cover per livestock unit has increased on Irish farms to 225 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit. On lower stock farms with a cover per livestock unit above 220 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit, there may be an opportunity to lower supplementation and or remove a paddock for surplus bales to correct grass quality. Target a rotation length of between 21 and 25 days, a farm cover of over 600 kilos of dry matter per hectare or over 170 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit, and continue with pre-grazing yields of 14 to 1500 kilos of dry matter per hectare. And it's important to keep walking every week as we move through August. As we enter August, it's important to take note of the autumn grazing targets. Building covers in August is important to achieve extra days at grass in autumn 2024. How are we going to do that? We have to extend rotation from early August by 2.5 days per week to achieve this. So we want to go from a rotation length of 21 or 22 days currently to a 30-day rotation by the 1st of September. And we want to build a peak farm cover in early September up to about 300 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit. How are we going to build this grass? Firstly, increase the grazing area, so bring back in second cut silage ground and reseeded ground into the mix. Reduce demand by removing all young stock to out farms and sell surplus stock immediately. Complete a grass budget for the autumn on PastureBase and continue to walk the farm weekly. Now is also a good opportunity to start thinking about lime applications for your farm, so consult your soil results from last winter. Apply lime to paddocks that require it before weather and ground conditions start to deteriorate later on in the autumn. Only apply lime based on a recent soil test result. Don't exceed 7.5 tonnes per hectare, which is 3 tonnes to the acre in a single application. Where more lime is recommended, apply 50% now and the balance after 2 years. Target lime to grazing paddocks with lower covers, less than 500 kilos of dry matter per hectare, or also paddocks that were recently cut for round bales or reseeded ground. If you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'll talk to you all next week.